Hello guys and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are gonna look at the new cards that came out in Mobilitics. Not so new, they came out actually almost a week ago, but now I'm gonna make a video about them and gonna break them down a bit and evaluate how good they will be or how bad they will be or how viable will they be in certain decks, etc. So our first champion is Renekton. This video is gonna be about him, but I'm gonna do these kinds of videos about all of the other champions, probably in the next few days. And in the end, I'm also gonna make a tier list where I break down the assumed power level of all of the cards. So, like, this is gonna be S tier, and this is not gonna be S tier because this is poo-poo. But yeah, now we're just gonna evaluate some Shuriman cards, and if you are interested in my opinions about the other cards too, then just look at my other videos that I am gonna upload in the next few days. So let's start out with them. The first and most interesting is probably gonna be the period Sandisk, which we can't really evaluate 100% now. We can somewhat, but we don't have Azir yet, so we don't know how good the Monosharima archetype will be. I assume most of you already know what these cards do because they were out for like a week now, but I'm still gonna read them and explain what they do and how they function. First, you can draw this card on turn 1 if you don't have any other region in your deck, just Shurima. So this is kind of an alliance card, but a bit more strict. Oh, and by the way, I'm gonna put some music in the background right now. So now we have some music in the background too, so I hope it's not too quiet, but I don't want to get demonetized. I don't even get monetized, but never mind. So, the Sandisk. It reads countdown 25, which means you have to wait 25 rounds to this effect to take action, which is restore the Sandisk, and when an ascended ally levels up, advance me 10 rounds. So you don't actually have to wait 25 rounds to get the Sandisk restored. You can accelerate it by leveling up your allies, which you can do by just following the level up requirements, or just playing this card, the Ascendant Rise, which I don't actually know if it will work while you have your champions in your deck, but I would assume it has to, because otherwise it would be really bad. So if you look at a slow spell, it has to take a serious effect. Otherwise, it's just literal shit and breaks your hand. And this card is just a 7 mana do nothing if you don't if it doesn't work in a deck allies. So we can only hope it works even then. But then there's the question that how much or how many of these would you put in your deck? Because if you have already leveled up all your ascendant or ascended champions, then you don't really want to draw this card again, because it will just break your hand again, because you can't play it again because all your champs will be already leveled. So I guess that's about the Sandisk and Ascended Rise. I think maybe we could build a deck where we could use this card properly, and that deck couldn't be a mono Shurima deck. So we wouldn't get this start of game draw one of me if you all your cards are Shuriman, because then you can't add other regions, and we want to add other regions, namely Piltover and Zone, because these cards, so Buried Sandisk, I hear everyone saying that you can only add one of these to your deck because it will only break your hand. But in that cases, it can be a discard feather, and I really want to add more of them into a deck because if they remove the first one, then you can't level your champions to level 3, which I assume is gonna be the win condition of a Monosharima deck, but I'm still gonna say we haven't seen Azir yet, so we can't say that for sure. Uh, so yeah, and in that case we can have some value cards like some treasures or just Zonite Urchin or just Ramage, which can draw us other cards instead of these. If the, they would rig our hand out, which is actually quite nice, but then we have to hope we draw this card quite early, so we have to mulligan real aggressively to get it. So I don't know how viable that will be, but we will have to see. Then esteemed Hierophant. This card is gonna be really strong in a Sandisk deck because it advances it 2 turns, so it basically goes 2 turns ahead, and it's a 3 mana 3/4, which is the best stat line a 3 mana blank card can have, basically. So it's even strong without the text because that's Riven's stat line too, and the Badger Bears, which is just a 3 mana 3/4 without any text. So yeah, this card is gonna be probably really strong in these kinds of decks. I don't think it will have or it will see any play outside of that, but we will see. So Devoted Cancer. Actually, I haven't even thought about this card since the champions came out, so I have to look at this again. Round start. If you have leveled champion, heal your Nexus, heal your champions and Nexus too. So this could make sense for 3 mana. A 1/6 is not the best stat line, but if we can buff this a bit, then it should actually be fine. So if we have this and Voice of the Reason, no, we don't play Voice of the Reason. This card is just shit. So yeah, Revelation, Hero, Champion, and Nexus too. Hmm, this card is a question mark, I guess, because it's really. I would assume in the beginning some people would try it out, or it would even make sense in some control matchups because it doesn't damage himself like the broke back protector. So it can even stay alive and get its effect on one health and be a blocker. But yeah, I would assume it's gonna see a lot of cuts in almost all kinds of decks. Then Voice of the Reason is just bad because in this deck I don't know, maybe in some decks it would make sense. Maybe in a Nasus Shadow Isles fearsome deck where you just want to have your champs to be strong and hit hard, or maybe in an overwhelmed deck, but we will have to see how prevalent an overwhelmed deck in Shurima will be. It could actually exist because there are some cards that tend to lean towards that, but I would say this card is gonna be pretty bad. Maybe it will have her home, but on itself is bad. Golden Ambassador is the Shuriman Alliance card, which is 4 mana Alliance Royal Champion and granted +2/+2. So this has to work with the Shuriman champions, and I don't think that it would work really great with any of them, as far as I have seen. Maybe it works the best with Renekton, but it needs alliance, so probably you would run this in a buried Sandisk deck, and in the buried Sandisk deck, you run all three of the ascended champions, and then you can get Renekton reliably with this. So I'm not sure. Maybe in a mono Renekton alliance deck, which looks really strange, but with the time or forecast or what's the predict keyword, it's not even gonna be that bad because then you can assure your alliance hits and you can even draw a Nasus. You don't want to draw a Nasus with it because it scares with himself. So maybe a Talia because Talia is kind of or understated. So yeah, 2-4 and you could have a 4-6 instead of that. So old Chandler stat line, which is not bad. But then you could only play Talia on turn 6, which is not too great, but not the end of the world either. So yeah, this card is gonna be pretty bad in some decks, or in the decks that most people thought it's gonna be strong, but it will have a home in some Shurima Predict decks, I would assume. Then the Borough is just mean. So the only use this will have is in a Borough deck, which is by itself a mean deck, when you get it off of the set Poro. I don't remember its name now. Uh, Cards, where you're the Lonely Poro. And even then, you should have a champion that's leveled because then it's not gonna have a keyword. So then you will play, or you should have to play some fast leveling champions, and neither Brown or Vi are leveling in that deck, so even in that deck it's gonna be bad to draw this card or get this card. Then when we look at the other cards, uh, let's start with Renekton. So Renekton is gonna be really strong, especially with Exhaust and Ruthless Predator, because if he challenges he gets +2/+1 and he has to deal 12 damage, or he can level up by Ascended Rights. So he will use Exhaust and Ruthless Predator pretty great. And after he levels, he gets even stronger, +1/+1 on the stats, and instead of having to challenge something, he just gets a flat +3/+3. And if you level the Sandisk, then he's just a win condition by himself. So I think Renekton is gonna be really strong, but he can't clank out. So if he gets, just stuck, or he can't challenge anything, then he's gonna be kind of weak. But there will be some combat tricks that can still uh, save his life, and in some cases help him level up. I'm imagining, so he is a 4 by himself. He gets +2 if he challenges. So if you use Ruthless Predator, that's +4. So that's 12. And at that point, you can almost level him up already on turn 4. They have thought of this combo, haven't they? Because if I'm seeing this right, then it's 4 + 4 plus, yeah, 4 + 2 + 2, so that's 8, and he has to deal 12 damage. And if you play the discard shaped stone in your deck, then give an ally +1/+1 this friend. If you summon the landmark, this game give it +3/+1 instead. So ideally, you want to summon the Buried Sandisk first, and then you could give this card to Renekton, and he will deal 11 damage instead of the 12. So he would be one of leveling up. And I will have to see the other Shuriman cards and the other cards to be sure if he can level or can't on turn 4. But uh, yeah, I guess that's the strongest he can get on that turn. But maybe if we play, huh? Actually, he can level up on turn 4 because if you so you have to play Demacia with Renekton to for that to happen, and you have to play your Grand Plaza on turn 3. You bank on turn 1 and turn 2. You play Renekton on turn 4. He's gonna be a 5/4 already with Challenger, and you can use your Ruthless Predator, and then he's gonna be a 7/5 or 7/4. Then he challenges. Then he's a 9/4. Then you 9/5. Then you give him the shaped stone, and then he's a 12/6 on turn 4. And you can level up Renekton in the deck on turn 4. So yeah, he's gonna be great outside of Shurima too, but uh, you have to play Demacia for that, and I think he's gonna combo well with Jervan if that will be the case. And he's also got the overwhelm, so if they can't remove him as soon as he gets on the board, then he can be real pressure on turn 4. So he's gonna be an A tier, if not an F tier champion, in my opinion. And then let's look at the other cards that come with him. Uh, his leveled up, his ascended form is basically when I block or attack, so it works on blocking two all enemies and the enemy nexus. So it's kind of like a Swain passive when he strikes the nexus, but you don't have to do that. You just have to block or attack, and even works on blocking, which is really strong. So this is just a win condition. The opponent can't even really attack in a lot of war states if you have this card. And what else is there? So there's Bloodthirsty Marauder, which is just a better Legion Marauder in another region. We will have to see how great aggressive decks will be with Shurima, because it will highly depend on that, how strong this card will be. Uh, so I think this is also a question mark, just like the Devoted Council and the Golden Ambassador, because we will have to see other cards to evaluate this. It's a better Legion Marauder, but we don't necessarily rerun it just because it's better than another card. It's not good just because it's better than another card. So then there's Bakai Sand Spinner, which is basically a Nocturne without being a champion, which is actually really funny because it has the same cost, the same stats, so it's a 4 mana 5/3, and it's play grant an enemy -1 and vulnerable, and Nocturne grants the vulnerable and gives -1 to everything the opponent's board, so it's almost the same, just like two words are different. And Nocturne is still bad, and this card is maybe a bit stronger or maybe a bit weaker, but it's not great by any means. Maybe if you want to combo it with Renekton or rather a fearsome deck, it could be good, but I am not sure about that. Then there's the Exhaust, which is gonna be a given enemy -2 and vulnerable this round. Some decks are gonna just flash Shurima for this card for sure, because it gives vulnerable and -2 to an opponent's card, so it's basically a trade for you, so you can decide what trades into what and even lose two less health. It's focus, so you can't use it as a response to an open attack, but it's still gonna be strong outside of that. Ruthless Predator is gonna work well with Renekton, and I would say with Nuzzles maybe even better, but that's gonna be a totally different deck, and we will have to see, and I'm gonna talk about Nuzzles later. So then there's Quicksand, which is gonna be given enemy -4 and disable its giver, so it's almost like a hush that sometimes can save you more health and sometimes it can save you less. So it's like a bit different hush. It's really situational, but it's in another region, so it's gonna be Shurima's kind of hush. So it's gonna be pretty strong and also a staple in a lot of decks because it can swing a combat really hard, or it can allow you to block elusives, deny, overwhelm damage, and stuff like that. Then there's Unworthy, which is just shit, because there's the Right of Dominance, which is kill an ally or destroy one of your mana gems to give all enemies -2 this round, which is which in this card you almost never want to use the destroy a mana gem because the only way you can use that is by unworthy, and maybe this card will combo a bit with Azir because it's the Sandisk and Azir has this spell as a passive in league, so maybe this will be an Azir combo card, but we will have to see that. Right of Dominance is not good with Renekton, it's gonna be another deck that will use it, but mm, maybe even ah, this card is much stronger than it seems like because it gives all your enemies -2. So you can use this card aggressively as a finisher in some fearsome decks, just like Res Blood Marine is gonna be a great finisher in some Nuzzles Shadow Ice fearsome decks. But you can also use it in other decks or even in that deck defensively, because if you don't even want to kill one of your cards, you can just destroy a mana gem. But if they attack like with a full board, like imagine this, you're playing against a discard aggro deck and you get some 1 mana card like Bloodthirsty Marauder on your board, and they would hit your face for like I don't know 12 damage on turn 3, and you have block something with the Bloodthirsty Marauder, maybe a Draven or something that has a high attack stat. You block it, then you play Right of Dominance, and this dude gets killed, but it also would have been killed if Draven hits it, so it's just never mind. And you reduce the attack of all your enemies by 2, so instead of taking 12 damage, at worst you take 2 for 4 mana. And after that you still have to stand up because you have just spent all your mana, but then on turn 4 and turn 5 you will have to be stronger than your opponent because it's an aggressive deck. So after that you can play the Nozzle spell even on turn 5 if you play something on just on turn 4. So Shurima has a lot of cards that can slow down your opponent's progression. And then there's the last card, Res Blood Marine, which is just still gonna be a kind of decent card in fearsome decks. I'm. People are saying it's a bit overcosted, so at 7 mana it's a bit too expensive to be a 6/6 and have to attack. But with fearsomes you have want to attack anyways. And the other thing is that I'm not even sure you want to play this card as played, because if you are playing a fearsome deck with the new cards in Shadow Earth and Shurima, I'm not even sure you want to have it to be too aggressive. Maybe it will be a bit more controlly, maybe with Kindred and Nasus, or maybe with Alice or cards like that. But you don't have to play this on turn 7, especially if you're not attacking on turn 7. You can play something else to help you survive the opponent's attack, and you can play Spectra Matron on turn 8 and summon this card for virtually free, and then you will have two 6/6 fearsome units on the board, which your opponent has to deal with, and if he can't, then he's gonna get punched for another uh, -2 on all of their units, and with even Quicksand and Right of Dominance and Exhaust in Shurima, I'm not sure he will be able to block everything on that turn. And I think I don't even have to add this, but I'm gonna that not all of your so that's not all you will have. So you will have other cards that will reduce your opponent's attacks, so you can attack with the fearsomes. You will have other fearsome units on the board, and this is just gonna be an 8 mana uh, 2/6/6 and reducing the opponent's attacks by 2. So this card is gonna be pretty strong, not in a Renekton deck, but in another deck. So yeah, I guess those are my uh, thoughts about Renekton. Maybe I will go over him later if we see Nasus, or the potential combos with Nasus, or I didn't want to see Nasus Azir. In the future, we will probably see Azir 2 days from now, I suppose. Probably. Yeah. So, no, in the last day. It's gonna be Sivir tomorrow. Today we're seeing the new cards for every region. So yeah, I'm gonna come back to these cards too in the future, but these are my initial impressions and initial thoughts about these cards. So thank you everyone for watching, and watch my opinions about the other cards that came out in this regular season too. Uh, they may not be uploaded just yet, but I will work on them in the near future and in the next few days. So I will upload maybe 2 videos in one day. So they will be out there and you will be able to check them out. So yeah, that was my video. Please like and subscribe, and see you in the next one.